boundaries, so I'm not personally impacted by it. But I just went to meet actually Jessica Richards, who's on the show a few weeks ago. We met up in Rutland, and so I went round Leicester, and there were signs about people in Leicester not travelling out and back in again, and it's strange, really.
Yeah, wow. Yes. Yeah, it is a strange world, isn't it? And about you, Muriel. Muriel in Liverpool is it's pretty old, the Wirral, I should say, because you don't like being referred to.
Yeah, all good up here, thank you. We popped out and went to B&Q today, and for the first time, we both wore a mask. It was awful because my glasses were getting steamed up, and I couldn't see. So then I took my glasses off, and I saw even less then. It was different.
Yeah. Have you got a really trendy one, Muriel?
No, we bought some disposable ones. Bought a big amount of disposable ones.
One of my clients, she's saying that her mother had bought some disposable ones, and the father said, "I'm not having this." And apparently he likes his designer labels, and he came back the following day with 3 Hugo Boss branded.
No, really, Chris?
Yeah, there's a whole new.
Oh, yeah. There is, isn't there? It is a whole new market.
Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are now officially live. It's 5 o'clock. So that's 5 o'clock British summer time, I should say, in case anyone's joined us from the States there as well. So you can see we've got Alex Riordan with us now already. Thank you very much for introducing yourself. Anyone else who's joined us right now, if you could just introduce yourself in the chat, just confirm audio and video is okay. Be really appreciated. And also that way we at least know we're not speaking to just Alex, which is very nice, Alex, by the way. But it would be nice to know there's lots of people in there as well. In fact, I'm seeing people log in as we speak, so that's great. So anyway, without sort of further ado, we'll get started. So again, just introduce yourselves, a little bit about what you do, why you do it, what you're really passionate about. And if you've got one killer question, this is a really good opportunity to type this in the chat. Now, we won't necessarily get to it straight away, but we will try and flash these up on the screen. And I know that Chris, a little while, and Nikki will do their best to feed that in and see what we can do around it. And just to introduce everyone today, so I'm Rupert from Business Growth Bureau, founded the organisation about 6.5 years ago, and very fortunate to have some great people working around me. Very blessed to have Chris, who's been a great support and lead with this show in many respects. So thank you, Chris. And Muriel, of course, who I've described as every business needs a mural. So Muriel, thank you very much. And of course, our guest, Nikki. And Chris, you may want to introduce yourself a little bit.
Yeah, sure. I'm Chris Cooper. And for 15 years, since I sold my share of a business that we grew to be quite successful, I have been really helping business people to develop themselves, develop their businesses, and also helping leaders in larger organizations too to develop themselves, develop the performance of their people, and build really highly engaged workplaces. And that's where I'm kind of passionate, really, helping organizations grow, whether it be young startup entrepreneurs through to people in corporates. It's all about helping people on their potential. I wrote a book co-authored called The Power to Get Things Done, whether you feel like it or not, published by Penguin Random House. And for 9 years, I've hosted the Business Elevation show on Voice America, which is was the largest business show on the network last year and accessing over 50 countries. So that's me.
That's fantastic. And Nikki, obviously Chris will properly introduce you in just a moment. Do you want to just give a slightly potted version? So thank you very much for joining us on the show today, by the way.
Thank you. Well, I'm Nikki, and I've had a really strange life. And so I guess I'm quite used to strange conditions like what's going on with the coronavirus right now. But I have always been passionate about transformation and transformation at speed. So I've pushed out the barriers with some very and really taken some quite unusual steps to create change in a very unusual way. So I'm kind of up for everything. I think people in the press describe me either as at the frontiers of personal development or barking as a box of frogs. So I don't know what your guests are going to make of me. I hope it's going to be an interesting discussion that we're going to have. And when you mentioned a killer question, I had kind of like a machine gun image. You know, why do you say that? You know, why can't it be a kind of a powerful question? Or, but if I get a killer question, I'll give a killer answer. So I challenge anyone to really ask something deliciously complex. I love stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, you obviously didn't realise that we're associated with the gun lobby in the United States. So,
okay.
But I apologise for that statement altogether, by the way. Anyway, Muriel, we haven't properly introduced you, but Muriel, do you want to give a quick introduction about yourself as well?
Thank you. Yes, I'm Muriel. I work with Rupert and have done for many, many years in this current company and past company. Also a great friend of the family. I work with our client side, but also support Rupert in his overflow work and whatever else he's doing. I'm really passionate about working with people. I love people and helping them to be happy. And if that means succeed in business or succeed in life, that's what I get a kick out of.
Right, Muriel, thank you very much for that. And I'm about to hand over to Chris in just a second. And I'll let Chris properly introduce Nikki. And at this point, if you see Muriel and I disappear, we will very much be here behind the scenes, going through the chat. If you see a reference being 2 or 3 times, by the way, it's not Muriel and I having to share the same login so we can join in today. So you'll see 2 Rupert Honeywards, but one of them's really Muriel. Just a bit of confusion. We'll be joining, or I'll be joining a bit later on in the session. So anyway, handing over to Chris now. Welcome, Nikki. We're really looking forward to what you've got to have to say. So over to you guys. Thank you.
Hi, good to be with you all again today, and I'm delighted today to be able to welcome Nikki. We've known each other for a few years now, Nikki, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. I
remember coming off a stage at an event, and we got talking, and we had some lunch, and we've been kind of friends since, really. And I remember, with Nikki, I've interviewed Nikki a couple of times before, and indeed she's interviewed me too. And I would say, but besides being a fascinating and lovely person, I think Nikki offers something quite different to the marketplace. And I think Nikki's got an amazing story, and I'm sure she'll tell you a little bit about that too, which is very unusual. And through her journey through life, she's been really looking at developing perhaps a very unique and transforming process to transform your thinking and your mindset. And this particular system that I've also been utilizing myself to great effect. People like Harry Kane are now twittering about and saying this is fantastic. So I've got my soccer mad son interested in this, because now there's soccer players who are interested in her work. And she also works with lots of big companies too. And as you might, as you mentioned there earlier, Nikki, some people have said, is she slightly bonkers? Whereas other organisations like Lloyd's and Roche Pharma and people like that are utilising your services and getting incredible results out of them. One thing about you, I remember you working for about 5 years at Shakespeare's Global Theatre, which was very interesting. And you've been an executive faculty member at the Harvard Business School Advanced Management Programme. So big welcome to Nikki Owen.
Hello, Chris. Here we are again. By the way, it wasn't Harvard, it was Henley. Yes. I mean, I don't mind Harvard. I'm not sure I'm bright enough for them.
Well, maybe I seem to be now doing your breathing space, and all sorts of ideas are coming up for me. And
I'll be there next week. And
some of them, I think, are actually. I'm starting to see the future with some of this too. So maybe that's what I did. I mean, I just jumped into the future there for a moment. So Nikki, shall we start in the place of you maybe just sharing a little bit about your background and this incredible story, which is really very transformative for yourself. You've been through massive transformation yourself. Tell us a little bit about that and how that's impacted what you do today.
It took me years actually to be able to share my story, because I was horribly embarrassed by it. And, you know, when I was 18, I was at the Old Bailey facing life in prison because I was charged with arson, endangering life and intent to kill my mother. And I'd been kept in Holloway prison that I think closed down in 2016. And because I was so violent, I was kept in solitary confinement in darkness and fed through a hatch in the wall. And my prognosis for my future looked really, really bad. And it was my father's love and his refusal to accept that his daughter had suddenly appeared to go mad and violent that discovered the link between my hormones and my behaviour. And my case made legal history in 1978. And I walked free, which was astonishing against all the odds. And at that time, I was very broken. I wasn't like the person I am now. But I think I realized in that moment that whatever we experience in our life does give us the opportunity to become a better version of who we are. And although I didn't understand it at the time, I think now I realize that it was the point that set me on my path, really. And I can't imagine doing any other work, because when you're pretty screwed up and you're broken and you've got no confidence, and I self-mutilated a lot, and I had to make a decision to rebuild my life and heal myself. So the first person I had to work on was me, and I was a pretty tough client and very difficult and challenging to work with. So that's just a very short, you know, overview of my story a little bit.
And what, you know, you've been in a very, very dark place, and a place that I can't really imagine. I mean, it sounds like you know, a movie to me if I compare it with my life. And obviously there's you know, some situations and things that got you into that situation, but you were able to you know, transform yourself, you know, over a number of years, and really kind of realize your own potential, because what you're achieving now is quite incredible. It's quite remarkable. So what really was it that enabled you to do that?
I think I had kind of a choice. I had to either make a decision to give up, or I had to find some sort of purpose and meaning from what I'd gone through, because it was so embarrassing. I was so ashamed, and I did look like a monster. I mean, all the papers at the time were describing me as a Jekyll and Hyde character. And I mean, it was you know, people would avoid me in the street, and I looked weird. You know, I didn't look normal, and it was very, very upsetting. And I was really violent. But the funny thing is, Chris, once you've been in prison and you've been told that you're going to Broadmoor, because they applied to Broadmoor, which is the hospital for the criminally insane, because I was actually described by 8 different psychiatrists as a maniacal psychopath, incurably insane, and a danger to society. So they're pretty big, strong labels. I mean, I'm a bit nuts now, but hopefully not violent. But I just wanted to, I always felt there was something in me that was not meant to be violent or weird or strange. So yeah, but it was something now that I see was a turning point in my life, and it's given me such resilience. Nothing phases me now, and also it's given me the courage to dare to push the boundaries and do things in the whole field of transformation and change that perhaps people don't do. Because I thought, well, why spend years trying to change and heal yourself when actually you could do it really, really quickly? So it's just driven me. And I see it as a positive now, but it used to, and even now there's a bit of me, if I'm honest, thinking, I wonder how people are receiving this, and if they're thinking, oh my goodness, we're gonna, you know, we don't want anything to do with her, she's a bit weird, you know. So I don't know.
Yeah, Well, thank you. We've spoken a number of times, and you've shared today probably even more eloquently than I've the future times we've sort of discussed this. And I know that you're having a huge impact with the work that you're doing. And I wonder, I think what this is encouraging is for people in all sorts of situations that transformation is really is possible. But I wonder what is it that stops people from really going out and achieving their potential? I mean, like you are.
I think there's a couple of things. I think, first of all, we have to have the desire to change. Without the desire to change, then it's not possible. If you think you're fine as you are, I had a big desire because I was completely, in a very strange place. So the desire has to be there first and foremost. And also, you've got to be prepared to bring down your walls that we've built up over the years, because when we're tiny little children, we are in a hypnagogic state and we download all our programs. But as we realize that things happen to us in life, that we start to protect ourselves and put up these walls. And lots of people, they just push down, they suppress all their emotions. And that's what creates this internal toxicity that creates us, that stops us from being, operating from our highest self. And actually, I believe that with potential, you don't have to teach people anything. We are hugely full of infinite potential, but we have to get out of our own way. We have to clear the blocks, because when we can access and connect to our highest essence, the highest expression of our consciousness, then everything changes. But being human, we create all these obscurations and all these issues that stop us from stepping into our greatness.
Mm. And to get into that situation you were in, I'm imagine that you must have suppressed a lot of emotions and contained them, for them suddenly to erupt into what kind of happened. I'm just and I feel like I should ask you the question right now. I'm sort of concerned about my kids at the moment, going through this COVID situation, and how do we best be with them at the moment? How do we best listen to them? I see
you cannot fix anyone. And I think, especially as a parent, my own daughter now is 25. As a parent, you want your children to be happy. You want to make life magical. But who are we to say this is the right thing for you? Actually, everything we go through that's not easy does strengthen us, does teach us something. And so I think we just have to love people as they are, without that natural inclination to, fix it for them, because we can only fix ourselves. So although people love the work I do, I always say, well, it's not really me that does it. I just facilitate the change. It's you that's doing all the work. I think that we have to come from a place of, if we feel good, and we're, operating from a really great place, a place of love, a place of compassion. And this is in business. I know, sometimes people think, oh, why are you talking about love and compassion in business? But when we come from our heart and we have good intentions, then that is a lovely energy to be around. And that will heal people emotionally and physically.
Yeah, I think... that's true. I sent my son a little text this morning. I was thinking I've been, we've had a little strained over the last week or two, and I realised he was 57 homeworks behind. And bless him. And I sent him a little note this morning saying how proud I was of his football and how well he's doing with it, and how well he's doing with his YouTubing as well. I got the most beautiful note back from him. It nearly made me cry, actually. I was with someone this morning. Just that, actually approaching it from a different angle, I found really helpful. And I'm interested, I was reading a couple of your sort of testimonials, and Lloyd's Bank, you did some work with them recently, and they said, this is unlike anything I've encountered before, breathing space. breathing space. It has the potential to make a big difference to people's lives. And Roche Pharma did a program with them, improved levels of calm, they said, by 214% in 2 weeks, monitored over 2 weeks. And they're doing incredible. I'm wondering how can organizations make behavior change effortless or more effortless than it is?
Yeah, well, I'm passionate about this because I think that most of the behaviors that we have as adults, something like 80–90% of the behaviors we demonstrate now were formed in the first 6–7 years of our life. So we're born in a hypnagogic state, and which means we're highly suggestible, and we need some programs so we can interact with life and be a human being. So we observe the people that bring us up, you know, normally our parents. So we observe, record and download the behaviors unconsciously. So we learn most of our behaviors unconsciously, and yet so many organizations, they try to change behavior consciously. And that's such hard work when there are now tools, techniques to involve the unconscious mind that enables you to create change really, really quickly. And that's why I'm always surprised at why people make things such hard work when actually changing behavior can be easy if you just work directly with the unconscious mind. And there are loads of techniques to do that, you know, kind of, you know, with the energy releasing techniques, whether it's emotional freedom techniques, matrix reimprinting, timeline therapy, classic hypnosis. There are all sorts of techniques that can be used to do that. And I think it's about organizations thinking, well, if you really want to create change, then, you know, be bold and introduce these slightly unconventional ways of creating change into your, you know, L&D budgets, because it is extraordinary. And the one thing I do feel really, really proud of is the speed and the huge change I can create in people in a very, very short space of time.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you know, one of the reasons I wanted people to, you know, to listen to you and be part of this is to just maybe suspend beliefs a little bit and be prepared to give different things a go. And I think that's really important, isn't it? Because often we do you know, things, it is a very conscious kind of process, and we're quite linear, and maybe need a bit of structure. We need to know why something's going to work. And, you know, I think sometimes it's better just to go with the flow and give it a go, suspend your beliefs, and then look at the results.
Well, yes, because I think you can't just look at the unconscious mind, because if you think about the unconscious mind, you know, our physical senses as human beings are limited. So if you think about a dog can hear, you know, Rupert brought his dog, you know, onto the show just before we went live. And, you know, so his dog will hear a whistle that we can't hear. A hawk can see something that's 20 meters away as if it's 2 meters away. So our physical senses are on a spectrum, and then we absorb all this information into our unconscious mind, but consciously we can only process about 40 bits. So, you know, the whole idea that reality is fixed is absolute nonsense, because there is, you know, reality is just an illusion. You know, it is just a vibrating nothingness that only becomes called into being when we focus our attention on it. And energy is just, you know, the whole world of quantum mechanics, the fact that at our smallest, we now know that Nobel Prize winning physicists have proven beyond doubt that the physical world that we experience is not physical at all. It's just vibrating energy that flashes into and out of being. And when you start recognizing that, you know, we are creatures that are vibrational. So if you want to achieve a particular sales target, or you want to solve a particular problem, you cannot solve a problem if you're vibrating on the frequency of problem. You have to change the frequency into solution frequency to access that, you know, the solution. And I think when people start to work with and embrace energy, that you cannot create anything unless it's present within you vibrationally first, because it's how it feels that is the most important thing of all. When you feel good, good things happen to you. When you feel crap, crap things happen. So if you're really stressed, and I know this because, you know, about my Big Apple experiment, but when you're really stressed, you know, you can only validate stuff that's stressed, because to feel calm, you need to access a different frequency. So I love all this stuff. And I think because everyone says to me, "What? We can't believe that you do all this stuff with organizations." And I just say, well, why? Because we're dealing with people, and people are open and ready for something different. And if they're not, it's normally because they're scared. Yeah. Yes, I love it. Renata, yes, you're a mirror. Exactly. We are projecting our reality totally. And nothing in this world has inherent existence. So nothing exists without our conscious awareness of that. And it sounds so difficult to get your head around. But once you realize that the larger aspect of who you are is non-physical, pure awareness, it's mind-blowing the speed with which you can create change. And yet it just sounds a bit far-fetched. But then if you said to people last year, you know, we'd be in lockdown and we'd have a global pandemic and nobody would be allowed out, then you wouldn't believe that anyway. So I think that people are becoming much more switched on to the role of energy, consciousness and awareness in creating change.
Well, I guess, Nikki, when you consider that you and I are probably 30 to 50 trillion cells each that are communicating with each other to enable us to be who we're being, then what you're talking about starts to not be quite so strange, you know, when. And I guess people here will be able to know, you know, when their energy's up and high, you know, more positive things happen to them. When it's low, they attract more kind of negativity. You feel people as you maybe walk through an office. Those are the energy as you walk through the office. There's a lot going on that we don't really understand, isn't there?
Well, but the answers are in quantum mechanics, because if you study the books, and this is not such a crazy thing anymore. The thing that scientists have real challenges with now is actually understanding what consciousness is, because they can't really define it, and yet they can't define it because they're trying to use instruments to measure something that is just not strong enough to measure something like consciousness. I mean, I could go on all day, and I'm thinking, I wonder if Rupert's thinking, make it a bit more practical, make it a bit more practical.
He's been practical. He just identified the lockdown has been lifted, so he's got right into practical mode. I think just on that point, I've been transcribing my radio interviews, and I'm reading them all, and you know, marking up kind of gold nuggets, and there's over 5,500 pages actually, so it's a massive bit of work. But I was looking yesterday. I interviewed a friend, twice world champion rower, Meta Block, and Meta came 8th in her first ever world championships, and she thought, how am I going to get to first? And what she did was she drew a picture, and she drew a picture of her on the podium, and she drew a picture of the kind of boats and a picture of how she felt, and she focused in on that picture such that she became completely and utterly energized by it. And she puts that picture down to coming first the following year. And then because she found it so stressful the first time, she wanted to do it again and enjoy it. So she did it again the next world championships, and won those as well. But, you know, I guess her vibrational energy kind of shifted through and utilizing the medium.
So the picture on its in of itself is not enough. It's whether that picture can create a vibrational, emotional response. That's what shifts your ability to attract. So, you know, and I think that what's interesting is that when we feel stressed, we are affecting the operating mechanism of the 50 trillion cells in our body. So in every cell, there's like a little gate, a little receptor on the cell. And if, for example, we're releasing cortisol, adrenaline, and we're feeling stress, the receptors are going danger, 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 and the cells close down. They do their own little lockdown, and it means that no harmful substances can go into that cell. The problem is that if those cells are closed, then you certainly can't access a growth mindset when you're operating at a cellular level in survival and lockdown. And also they will eventually die because they're not getting the nutrients that allow them to grow and develop. So it affects our immunology, it affects our mindset. You cannot perform well. And I think that one of the great things about what happened to me, you know, when you've been in prison and you're told that you're facing life and you'll never be allowed out again because you're a complete nutter, nothing really phases you. So I've always been brave enough to try things that might really fail because it doesn't matter. So I think that for me, the focus in my whole life is I can't really change anything except for how I feel. And if people realize that, you know, whatever they want, all of that is ultimately to make them feel better. So why not just feel better all of the time? If you feel good, you attract good stuff. If you feel bad, Renato's just come up with another thing. Remember, you are water. Can I actually say, Renato, that we're, as human beings, the average adult is something like 65% water, although the older you get, the less water. And I really wanted to demonstrate the impact that our focused intent has on physical reality. Because if you focus on things that are wrong in the world, it's affecting your vibration, it's affecting your emotional mood. And I created something which is called the Big Apple Experiment. I think I've got some here. And it's based on Masaru Emoto's wonderful experiments that he did with water crystals. Yes, I love that, Chris. I think, therefore I am. And so with Masaru Emoto, he sent positive intentions to, you know, some glass of water and then negative to the other. And within about 2 weeks, he froze the water and using microscopic photography, actually photographed the water crystals and found that the water crystals exposed to negativity were misshapen compared to the symmetry of water crystals exposed to positivity. So I decided to do it with apples. So you get an apple, and I run these experiments all the time to check me out, you know, to check that I'm in the right space. So I'm moving next week, and I've just written a book, and I've got an app coming out. So I've had all this stuff going on. So I have been quite stressed. So I did my apple with stress and love, because there's nothing more powerful than love. And so for those of you that haven't heard of the Big Apple Experiment, you take an apple, you chop it into 2 halves, you put half into a jar labeled love and half into a jar labeled whatever is the emotion. It might be frustration, anxiety, sadness, grief. And you put it down in the same room. It's not a scientifically controlled experiment, by the way. And you take out all your stress on the stress apple, and you take and you send the love to your love apple. And within 2 to 3 weeks, most people, I mean, I don't know, I've only been running mine because I knew I was coming on the show. I thought I'll do one. So I've only been running mine, but I just want to show you. So I'm just going to take the other thing is when you open them up, you can really smell the difference. So this is my, this is my love apple. So that looks quite fresh, doesn't it? I think it's a little bit brown. And then I think I only started this on Monday. And then this is my, oh yeah, look. So let me just show you the two. Can you see the difference? Now, if you can affect the rate of decay of an apple, like to this extent, within just 3 days, what impact are we having on our health and well-being, other people, our emotions? And so that's why, you know, whatever people say they want, that I just think that it's the only thing that matters, Chris, really, is doing everything we can to feel good. Because if we make that our priority, then nothing else really matters, because good things can come in when we feel good.
And when bad things happen or life is challenging.
Well, that's a bit of a judgment, isn't it? Bad, according to who?
Well, you know, okay. Maybe if I've been knocked down and I'm not here for next week's show, and well, actually, I think I'm going to have a holiday next week anyway. So
people are thinking you've been knocked down then.
maybe that's good. I don't know, but for me, that is quite bad.
But I think that the point is, I'm not saying that I'm not saying that things don't happen in the world that can cause us to feel really upset about them and cause a lot of suffering. But it's a bit like if you watch the news, you can feel really depressed. And it doesn't matter how depressed we get. We are not helping the situation by feeling that depression. It's not really empathy. If I'm wallowing in my bucket of SHIT, that's not helping anything. And one of the things that I learned through simple science is the process of entrainment. If we feel good, if we can maintain a calm composure in the face of craziness in the world, that will align, other people will align with that, and it will lift their mood far more than if we just say, oh, isn't it terrible what's going on? Oh, you poor thing. That doesn't help people. It really doesn't.
Yeah. So let's talk about the components that generate, you know, this kind of effortless ease in terms of, you know, shifting our behaviors and doing things in a better, easier way. So life flows easier. What are the key components?
So for me, there are 4 key things that will create an instant change in how you feel. First of all, it's working with the breath, because when we feel scared, we tend to tense everything in our body, and we hold emotion in our body. And this naturally constricts our ability to breathe. So by taking really deep breaths will completely change our physiology, change our state. And also it begins to soften old, unprocessed, stuck emotions. So breath is really important for creating change. The other thing for creating change is we need to release. We need to be able to release those emotions. And if you look at little kids, you know, when they're younger, they have real old temper tantrums, and they go like, and they go absolutely nuts, and they release. But as we get a bit older, we're like, oh, no, we've got to be very sensible, and, you know, we're not allowed to cry or express our emotions. So we push it down and push it down. But primal releasing is, you know, we create neurogenic tremors. That's the way mammals release and let go of stuff, which I think is fantastic. So we need to release. The third thing we need to do is we need to access the frequency we have that activates our body's natural blueprint for healing, which is innate within all of us. And then we need to start to rewire our thinking so that we think, that lovely guy that said, you know, the Descartes quote, I think, therefore I am, he's absolutely right. We have to start to shift some of the old unconscious ways of thinking so we think more positive thoughts. So yes, thank you, Chris. Thank you for that reminder. So to me, they're the 4 elements. And if you put those together, it's like explosive.
I also wonder, you know, I think, I mean, I had some feedback from a client yesterday. In fact, there were 2 had a client in the morning, and then I come together with another client in the afternoon together, and they're very successful business people, and they asked me, how is it? We worked with me for a long time. We don't understand, how is it that we can be in a room with you, and sometimes you don't even say anything, but we have an entirely different conversation than we possibly could have had on our own without you being present. And then yesterday, I think I said something. I think I asked a question which was to a client was, how, what do you, who do you need to be, or what do you need to be to become the person that you need to be right now? And he was like, whoa, wow. And he started, it really, a catalyst of all sorts of things came out of it. And then he said to me, why did you ask me that question? And I started to try and explain. And I just suddenly said to him, actually, I didn't ask you that question. I was just a conduit from it. It just came from within me. And I shared it to you because I thought it was going to be helpful. And he was like, whoa, it's amazing. But I think it comes out to the fact that I do meditate, and I do get myself into a place of calm and still where I can. And I do find in that situation, I'm able to help more and somehow access more. I don't know if you find that.
Totally. Well, I know exactly what happens, because when you're feeling stressed, the quality of the information you can access is going to be quite poor. When you access a place of calm, a place where you're able to really lift your vibration, a place where you're able to expand your awareness so that everything feels in flow, you become able to connect with the infinite intelligence. So, in some cultures, it's called the Akashic records. Every thought that's ever been thought is out there. So if we want to access real wisdom, then we need to raise our vibration so we can access that wisdom, and it will just flow in, Chris. So, everything from the title of my books to pricing strategies, I know that is Nikki, my human self, operating from a place of ego and trying to think things in a very logical, rational way. Why would I do that when I've got this vast, limitless, infinite intelligence out there that's just waiting for me to attune and align with it, that we can all do? And that's one of the reasons I was so excited about breathing space, which is my active mindfulness practice, because you cannot not access that infinite intelligence that's out there. So suddenly, problems become, that's the answer. And then suddenly you get these profound insights, which are just so inspired that you just couldn't have. Chris, I would actually say, when you mentioned, by the way, you find talking about problems helps you, I'm not so sure. I don't really think we should wallow in the frequency of problem, because it just builds the intensity of the problem. I prefer to work by getting out of that and changing things so I can look at it in a different way, because I think that the more we talk about our problems in our past, the more we carry those problems and the more heaviness manifests in our body. One of the things I'm very good at, I'm very sensory aware, so I can tune into people really quickly and I can feel what they're feeling. And I've been on television, with political leaders giving feedback about their energy, and you can see people that talk a lot about their problems, they're carrying their problems. You can feel it across their shoulders, and it gives them a heaviness. So yeah, sorry, I've gone on a bit.
No, I'm just mindful a little bit of time. I just want to just talk about mybreathingspace.com, which I know is your is this system that you have created, which it's got the most amazing music. I mean, it's AD technology. I know your nephew and your sister are kind of involved in this as well, and there is that mixture of breathing, of holding your breath, which I found quite profound, that I could hold my breath for 2.5 minutes and enjoy it. And also, there's some kind of affirmation and things like that in it. And I found the whole experience quite profound when I interviewed him. He asked me for 2 weeks to listen to it, and I had a visceral kind of effect on me, and really got me back into some of this sort of these kinds of practices. What I found fascinating was when I asked you how you created it, and a little bit like a lot of people say, well, I just sort of downloaded it, and you tell me some of these amazing tracks, which are real kind of works of art in their own nature. So people have got to go and listen to them. And you can listen to them for free, can't you, to experience them? But just tell us about how you created this, because they are.
So
really...
I think that I've never created anything without having the feeling of it first. And I know that if we are in the right state of mind, we can access it. So I get myself in the right state, and I allow the wisdom and the insight to enter my conscious awareness. And it gives me the topic for the next Breathing Space album. And that's why I'm able to keep it fresh and different. I kind of feel they're not even my ideas. They're just coming from somewhere else. But I really like the somewhere else place that it's coming from. So, and I suppose to some people that would sound weird.
Yeah, I suppose I think I'll just say to people, just suspend your judgment and give it a go.
Yes.
Drop your judgment. Drop your, we have too many judgments and beliefs about things that limit us and mean we don't try things. And I thought it was interesting. I sent your links to yours to 2 of my clients, and one of them said, "Oh, that'd be quite interesting. I'll try that." And the other, "Oh, no, I don't do that sort of thing." Really, really kind of different. And I thought, you know what?
Yeah.
You might find this kind of quite helpful right now. I just had a message come up that Leicester are playing Sheffield at 6 o'clock. So,
oh, okay. Thanks for that.
Well, hopefully they do better than they did last week. Well, Rupert keeps sending me little messages now saying, "Get off," and he wants to talk about more, some structural things. But thank you for that. And I think what I take away from this and from conversations with you, Nikki, is that transformation really is possible. You're a living example of that, and these methodologies and things you talk about, it's fascinating when you go and look at the scientific work around these things. These things are being proven. If you're interested in cell biology, I think Bruce Lipton is brilliant.
Yeah.
Liked the work of Tom Campbell, who's a 30-year sort of NASA physicist. These things are kind of being proven. There's a lot we don't understand, but the system you've created is one way to kind of maybe access a little bit more and turn up in a better state and leave you in a better place to be productive right now. So thank you.
Pleasure.
Yeah. Nikki, thanks so much for that. I had the great pleasure of listening to you in the background whilst trying to read the comments along with Muriel. Muriel and I are both fighting over the keyboard at the same time. So thank you for that. And by the way, I think a few people on YouTube, Facebook had a couple of problems today. Obviously, everything seemed fine at this end. And fun enough, we were checking on Facebook here and YouTube Live, seemed reasonably okay. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but probably one of the gremlins. And we'll look at the recording afterwards, actually, and just see whether it was an encoding problem on the Facebook side or YouTube side, but we just don't know. But anyway, thank you very much. That's been fantastic, Nikki. And I would never be rude to Chris. I promise. He's a good friend. So I think I've made Chris's day, by the way, with Leicester not being locked down anymore. So you should be a very happy man.
Oh, well, it doesn't make a lot of difference to me. I stay out in the countryside. It's nice to hear.
And I love it. Yeah, exactly. So moving on a little bit onto the next part of it. Obviously, we try and pick up on some positive theme every week. We've obviously seen lots of good things going on over the last few weeks, and also a few bad things as well. And in terms of someone who's looking to achieve something really good for charity, Alex is someone I know very well, is looking to raise money for Mind. I believe he's got up to £1,072 now, raised for charity. And he's a bit mad. I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying that about him. He did manage to complete, with me acting as the driver, I will hasten to say I didn't attempt it myself, get up the 3 peaks 2 years ago in 1 hour. Sorry, that's not right. 20 hours and 50 minutes. Slight problem with that. And about one of the things that I'm sure Nikki would probably have some comments around this, but what I haven't realised is that suicide amongst under 45-year-olds is particularly high, especially amongst men. And I think something Alex is very strong about is it's okay not to be okay. And clearly we know with COVID going on as well that in effect we've got what is a ticking time bomb with mental health as well. And what he feels very strongly about, and so do I, is that when the world does get on top of you, it's about pushing through. And I think he makes some really good points just described there. So I just want to touch on that very briefly. If you had wanted to donate to the Just Giving page, you can go direct, rather than going to a brown friendly URL, you can go to businessgrowthbureau.com/mind, and it does a redirect to that Just Giving page if anyone's interested. Now, we actually this week had, I will say it was a pre-launch. In fact, Renato, and I think Christy might have been there as well, I'm not sure. Renato was certainly there, and using a completely different platform for this, what we class as Biz Growth Supercharged Tuesdays. Just to put a bit more meat on the bone, broadly speaking, what we're looking to do is to run this every week on a Tuesday for 90 minutes. It's completely free for the first 4 sessions, and in effect what we're inviting people to do is to join us on your virtual tables. You'll have a chance to meet, network and collaborate, and it's broken down into 4 weeks as a revolving cycle every month, and within each session there's a 30-minute strategic review. So week 1 would be market insights, return to normal. Week 2 is the 12 pillars to growing and have a successful business. Week 3 is the social selling blueprint for sales success. And there's a LinkedIn bonus session there as well. And week 4 is the importance of building your tribes and your action plan for 2020 and beyond. We do try and make these sessions fun. In fact, I will, as Renato will vouch for this, I think everyone enjoyed it so much, no one wanted to leave at the end. So we had an enforced cut-off at 2:30 on the, after 2.5 hours on the platform. So if you wanted to join in, you can register very easily. So let me just go on to the next slide where it gives you details on that. And then basically, if you go to the Business Growth Bureau site and then choose the events page, and on there, you can very much sign up for next week's live stream, which I'll explain in just a moment. But also a bit further down on that page, you can also register for Biz Growth Supercharged Tuesdays. And if you want to book as a recurring event, both for this and for the Tuesday one, if you simply choose, when you select the date, instead of choosing continue, choose recurring, and you can book in multiple weeks, which saves you having to re-register every week. All you need to do is confirm your attendance. Now, I'm sure we'd all agree that Nikki's and Chris, for that matter, has done a fantastic job today, and I'd like to say a very big thank you, and we'll come back to that in just a second. What I'd like to do is also mention who's the guest on next Thursday's live stream. A bit of a different theme next week. Tony Morris is well known as an international speaker. I don't actually even know what his 3-letter word is, but no doubt we'll learn about it next week. He is a real professional. I think he's helped about 30,000 people in his lifetime through sales-based training. And of course, these particular points are really, really relevant, especially with people who are the coaches, mentors, trainers of this world, or people who feel very uncomfortable asking to close pieces of business. And of course, there can be all these mental challenges around feeling bad when we're dealing with the middle of a pandemic. And obviously, at the end of the day, whilst Zig Ziglar is well known for having a quote, I don't read a lot of his stuff, but one of his quotes is very much about sales is very much the honoured profession. And I think we'll learn a lot from Tony next week about how to be able to find your ideal target customers, how to engage them the right way, how to handle rejection and objections, but in a way which is a very nice approach to sales. So I'm sure we'll learn a lot from that. We are very much here for you. So thank you very much for joining on Facebook Live and YouTube Live and Periscope. You can set a reminder in Facebook and or subscribe on YouTube. If you've enjoyed today, do feel free to share and to like the page, but only if that's what you want to do. But at the end of the day, we want to spread the message out there. We have some great speakers. Nikki, I'm sure you'd agree, has done a great job today. I've personally been very touched by her story. It must be a very bold thing to do. to share her experiences. And Nikki, thank you for that. And here are the contact details if you want to reach Nikki, her website there, or Chris as well. So there are the phone numbers and also the email addresses. So do reach out. Chris is a master in everything to do with business elevation and leadership. And I've had the great pleasure of introducing to several of our clients, and they've been incredibly pleased with his very kind contribution. I think with this in mind, so I was coming back to everyone that's on the live stream today, which at the end of the day, we're here for you. Let me just remove that for a second and go back to where we were. What I would just like to do is to just ask, sorry, Nikki and Chris, whether, and Muriel, if you want to join in for a second as well, was there any closing questions or thoughts? And obviously, if any of you on this live stream today would like to interject with more questions or thoughts, it is a really good opportunity to do that. We've actually run very well to time today, which is fantastic. But Nikki, have you got some more insights you'd like to share, or Chris or Muriel, what are your any insights you'd like to share from today?
Well, I would like Nikki to share, actually. Nikki, could we have the URL for the breathing? How do we access that?
So it's www.mybreathing-space.com. And everybody can sign up to do a free 10-day challenge, because it's quite challenging to do all of this with the music, and we use some very strange effects with technology. And so if people sign up for the challenge, that I guide them through the challenge through video and everything. But it's not everybody's cup of tea, you know, but the people that do it love it and say that it changes how you feel instantly. And for me, that's what I think a lot of us need today, because we're almost caught up in this hedonic treadmill where we want pleasure and we want it quickly. And therefore, when you're doing breathing space, you can actually feel the change happening even after the first session. So it's incredibly powerful. There are some warnings. Don't do it if you've got high blood pressure, you're fasting, or you're pregnant, or you think you might be. It's not suitable. And if anyone wants to email me, if they've got any of those issues, I can direct them to something else that's calmer. But it's a pretty powerful tool, and it's like having daily therapy that just works on your stuff all the time in a way that makes you feel good really, really quickly.
That's lovely. Thank you very much.
I just sort of say from my experience of doing it, because I did it for 2 weeks every day, and what I found was that you know in the morning you kind of wake up with that sometimes a heavy feeling, and maybe lacking a bit of motivation. You don't quite want to get up, or there's something on your mind. And I think what I found with it is that it helped me shift that, and I came out of it feeling energized and lighter. Stress had gone, and I was just able to just get into flow then without all this stuff maybe getting in my way. So I've been genuinely endorse it, that it was great. And it's also I've also chosen as well, I utilize some of your recordings, Nikki, but other days I may just meditate quietly because I like the quiet. Yeah. So the blend of the two for me.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, so Nikki, with that truly, it has been an amazing experience today, and obviously I can understand why you have such a powerful impact on people. Are you able to give us an example of someone that you've bit of a curveball question? If you can't think of it straight away, I can't understand. But are you able to think of someone who, obviously, without discussing anything that's confidential, where perhaps they've been through a particularly difficult journey, and you're going to have some form of transformational impact?
I've got loads of examples of those. So if I'm thinking specifically about breathing space, which is what people can do for themselves at home, because I work with my own transformational process, which is very powerful, but I wanted something that people can do themselves. So I've had a client that completely sorted out her migraines after 2 weeks of doing breathing space. I've had people that feel they're more tolerant. I've had people that have had out-of-body experiences. They felt that the quality of their relationships with their partner has been much better. The results are really, really quick and distinctive. And when you first do it, because you're changing and you're becoming so aware, often it can create some initial friction at home because people aren't used to this massive change so quickly. So that's kind of a bit of a challenge in of itself. But for people, it's really life-changing. And within the 10-day challenge, that's the time it takes to really get that huge experience of, yes, a lot shifted. Because it's like emotional weeding. You know, if you've built up over the years this mountain of negativity, and you're just allowing that negativity to soften and flow and release, then you're going to just feel lighter, easier, looser, less tightness, much calmer, much less sadness, frustration. We measure everything. So the stats are unbelievable, you know, kind of, you know, double-digit improvements in so many different areas. But of course, I'm a big fan of this. You know, just don't take my word for it. Try it for yourself. That's why I wanted Chris to do it.
We can also point out we're not on any kind of commission or anything like that with you, Nikki. There's
no.
I tried it and I thought it was good, really good. Yeah, helpful.
No, well, Nikki and Chris and Muriel, of course, thank you very much. I think it's been a fantastic session today. We've actually run precisely to time, or 17 seconds late, but I think we'll excuse that. But do join us next week, and we've always got a nice surprise guest for you every week. So thank you very much indeed, and have a fantastic week. And hopefully we'll get to a point where some of these lockdowns will come to an end. It would be very nice. Anyway, take care. Stay safe, everyone. Thank you very much.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.